Welcome to the Salish Sea Fellowship Sunday afternoon service. Our speaker today is Richard Meadows. His sermon title is Invitation Cycles. We hope you enjoy this recording of our service, and we hope to see you in person some Sunday afternoon. Thanks for listening.
Will lead us in this portion of our service.
Today I'm going to come up here and stand next to the chalice. The chalice reminds us of our responsibility to hold to the truth, to share our happiness, our sorrows, our selves with the world. And at this moment, the world, our country, seems to be in a dour spot. I think we would agree on that. You have to check the news every day to find out what is it that's new, what is it that's of concern. Don't hear too much about Ukraine, don't hear too much about Gaza these days, but people are suffering. People are suffering there. People are suffering everywhere. We know about Minneapolis, Minnesota in general. These are hard times. So I want us to take a somber moment and remember that. Even as we want to honor ourselves as well. It's not being selfish to honor ourselves and to build the strength within ourselves, within our constitution, within our bodily constitution. We need to stay calm, we need to stay effective and the best we can. So, what do you do? What are you doing? Just keep your spirits alive, to stay calm, to be effective. What is it that gives you some strength? Anybody want to tell me? What does it for you?
Playing music and having people over for dinner.
We'd like to have more of that, for sure. Any other ideas?
We sing a lot.
You sing a lot, yes. It does relax you, doesn't it? Yeah. I too love the computer. You do? Yes, you can do that? Cure it. Good to see you.
Take nature walks.
I was certainly hoping for that response. Jan?
Play in the dirt.
Oh, are you gardening already? Oh, you are? Okay, good for you. Joni?
Playing with my dog, reading poetry, and trying to find things to watch on television that are encouraging. Joseph Bednarik was just saying he's starting to watch West Wing from the beginning. I think we've watched that series 3 times, and it's so hopeful to me, so different from the way it feels now. But it's so hopeful for me. That whole series is about people, and they mess up, they're really human, but they're trying to do good. They're trying to offer goodness to the world. So I keep trying to find things like that to watch on television as well.
Good ideas. Joellen?
What I'd like to say is please keep your Christmas lights on or porch light on, because it's going to speak to bringing light to this world, which is quite dark now. So keep your lights on.
And the light is coming back. We have sun coming through our windows. We can rejoice in that. And we have amongst us people that we are caring about and rejoicing with. Let's hear about some of the concerns first amongst us.
Hi, again, Joellen, still yet even. I have a concern for a dear friend and one of our members, Jackie McInvale. She usually sits over there in those two seats with her husband, Skip. Now, I talked to Jackie on Thursday and got her permission to tell what she's going through right now. You all know she had lung cancer and had a clean bill of health from that. Well, she now has a large tumor on her esophagus, and she has a tumor in her brain. So she's going to be going through, and she is going through chemo, and she will be starting radiation. She's still very positive about this, but I wouldn't have said anything if she hadn't said, go ahead and tell them. So keep your thoughts and prayers on Jackie and Skip too. Take Skip out for a beer.
We'll have to do what we can for each other. Anne Virtue and I got a call this morning from Sarah Hull that she needed some help. She fell during the night and managed to get herself back into bed, and she's thinking, well, let's just see what happens in the morning. So in the morning, she still was hurting quite a lot. And so Anne and I arrived about the same time, about 8:30 or so, got the ambulance over to take her off to be imaged, and she has a hairline fracture, but it's nothing that needs surgery, so that's a good thing. But it does take some recovery, and so the best solution, I'm hoping this will turn out to be the case, I still don't know, is that they'll keep her overnight at least for observation, because she lives alone, and she had an ankle injury a year and a half ago or so that was the right leg. This is the left leg, so you need a leg to stand on, and you need the support of your friends and neighbors for sure. So Anne and I provided a little help this morning, and we have a little dog living with us right now, who's settling in very well. I'd like to hear about some any more concerns.
Yes, I talked with Dan Service this morning. Virginia had knee surgery on Monday, and it's really rough. She's on heavy medications, and he's taking care of her, so that's why neither of them is here. So.
Again, you've got to take care of each other. More things to say about that. Well, let's hear about some happy news. Any birthdays recently? Jack, okay. Paul, will you raise your hand? Okay. Okay, well, Kathleen, do you want to say anything?
Well, I turned 80 on the 14th.
Yay! Can we do a little birthday? Any other birthdays this month? Oh, okay. Galen.
I turned 88 on the 15th.
Okay, that's the prize so far. Anybody else? Is that worth a quick round of happy birthday? I think it is. Okay, help us out here. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kathleen and Galen. Happy birthday to you. Okay, well, that's a positive note. Let's end there.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, now it's time for our offering. As Rob stated earlier this week, our offering goes to ECHO. Their mission is to provide free, durable medical equipment and transportation to medical appointments and other essential services for those age 60 and older, or those who cannot get themselves to appointments due to disabilities. But while we listen to the Salish singers sing Homeward Bound, our ushers will come among us with baskets so we can contribute to ECHO.
Good afternoon. Today's reading is from David White's book of poems, Still Possible. My courageous life has gone ahead and is looking back, calling me on. My courageous life has seen everything I have been and everything I have not, and has forgiven me day after day. My courageous life still wants my company, wants me to understand my life as witness, and thus bequeath me the way ahead. My courageous life has the patience to keep teaching me day after day how to invent my own disappearance and how once gone to reappear again. My courageous life wants to stop being ahead of me so that it can lie down and rest deep inside the body it has been calling on. My courageous life wants to be my foundation, showing me day after day, even against my will, how to undo myself, how to surpass myself, how to laugh even as I go in the face of danger, how to invite the right kind of perilous love, how to find a way to die of generosity. Thank you. Thank you for all of that beautiful music and singing. Really touched me. And good afternoon. I'm very thrilled to be here. I'm certainly looking at this as an invitation that brought me to this place today to gladly be amongst all of you. And I want to thank Ron for that invitation and for Joseph for introducing me to Ron so that I could be here today. And let me start with 1993. It's springtime. I'm in New England, and this postcard lands on my doorstep. And it was from a friend, Paul Curran, who knew I shared a deep affinity with Henry David Thoreau. I grew up in Lexington, Massachusetts, and as Ron said, the next town over was Concord, Massachusetts. So when I was in high school and I started reading Walden, I thought, man, I can get on my 10-speed bike and just head on up there, and lucky me. And so that's where my longtime love of Henry David Thoreau began, in my hometown. Now, of the many quotes and ideas that I was familiar with, this one I hadn't heard of, and I found it very intriguing. What a head-scratcher, I thought. We are constantly invited to be what we are. This postcard has been with me for 32 years and counting, and is hung on the walls of 7 different places I've lived over the years, most recently over in Port Townsend. And it has served as a mirror in which I can look at myself and ask, how am I doing? Am I living the life I am supposed to be living? Am I being what I am supposed to be? I was someone who took the big who am I in high school very seriously. So to receive this postcard with this quote that I wasn't familiar with at age 29 was very stirring. I had just begun a teacher certification program to become a high school English teacher, a long-time dream, so the timing of this postcard was perfect. The postcard made me think back to a couple of key moments. Invitations occurred in my life. One I responded to, and one I let pass by. The first was when I was a 17-year-old senior in high school, wondering what to do with my life. I was walking past a trophy case in the main hall, and I looked in, and I saw a quote by Henry Brooks Adams, hanging behind a collection of trophies. It read, "A teacher affects eternity." They never know where their influence stops. I felt a deep connection to this quote. And I read it, I thought, maybe I'll be an English or high school teacher someday. The invitation seed was planted. Sometimes invitation will periodically drop you a line until you decide to answer. 8 years after graduating from high school, I was living in San Francisco as a house painter. And one day I was riding my bike home from a job, and I looked up at the theater marquee, and it read, Dead Poets Society. Being a poet, I couldn't resist. I went to the theater the next night and was blown away. Walking out and saying to myself, now I'm ready to be a high school English teacher. Another moment of invitation came when I was on Martha's Vineyard, also living there as a house painter right out of college. I entered a photography contest and I won. I was elated. As I walked out of the post office, I said to myself, I should go to the School of Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and major in photography, as photography had been a hobby and a passion of mine since I was 13. During my junior year in high school, I was fixated on the idea of becoming a photographer for National Geographic. I was going to travel the world and capture all I could in wonder. But I managed to talk myself out of it. At the time, I didn't want to take on one more student loan. I just graduated from 4 years of college, and I felt I needed a break. Another invitation cycle that circled back more recently in 2023, when I was asked by my friends Holly Hughes and John Pierce of Empty Bowl Press if I would like to contribute some photographs for a book they were putting together titled Memories Vault, The Poetic Heart of Fort Worden. Several photographs of mine were used within as well as the cover. Now, this wasn't National Geographic, but certainly an important book about local poetry and public art in Port Townsend. And I was very honored to be pleased. I was pleased to be part of it. So it's just an example of sometimes you put one of those invitations on the shelf and they have a way of circling back. I often wonder who I am in relation to who I've been and who I might become. This way, I stay open to what is inviting me to the next experience on my journey. For example, in terms of my life as a teacher, for 23 years, my identity was just that. First at a residential school for emotionally challenged teenagers, then a special education teacher at a middle school, and eventually a mainstream high school English teacher. Letting go of this comforting identity at age 56 was both exciting and challenging, as I then had to sit once again with the question, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Or as Mary Oliver would ask, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? It was during the pandemic that I began to wrestle with this question. And suddenly, I had a lot of time to really sit with it. Then an invitation cycle presented itself when I saw an offering online, and all this online workshop stuff was brand new to me, for a workshop about the hero's journey. This proved to be a life-changing experience for me. I was familiar with the hero's journey somewhat from teaching it to ninth graders once upon a time, but delving back into it as it related to my own life proved to be of great value. I was struck by the relation between what had recently transpired in my own life and the first stage of the journey, departure, which involves a call to adventure, and found myself looking at the Thoreau card on the wall, once again with a grin. We are constantly invited to be what we are. Newly rejuvenated, I was ready to cross the threshold into the unknown. In the documentary Finding Joe, about Joseph Campbell, who discovered a hidden pattern in every story, the hero's journey, there are multiple examples of different people who go through these experiences, one challenge or another, and in each case they all end up in a better place. Places many of them could have never imagined if not for summoning up the courage to answer the call. In the waning years of my teaching career, I didn't feel like I was being who I thought I was any longer. I used to walk by the counselor's office and see a poster hanging on the door with this Howard Thurman quote. If you haven't guessed already, I'm very fond of quotes. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go out and do it, because what the world needs is for people who have come alive. Now, I knew this was meant for the high school students, but it was speaking to me all the same. I didn't feel as alive as I wanted to be. My inner voice was inviting me as well as the outer world through this quote hanging on the door, mocking me or inviting me. Between the Thurman quote gnawing on me and my soul screaming out louder and louder as I continued to burn out as a high school teacher, I almost ripped the Thoreau card off the wall one day in my study and tore it up. Bam! In the trash. When I say that my soul was screaming louder and louder, this was an inner voice I heard in my gut saying, I'm tired of this. I'm not liking the administrative pressures or some of what the administrators are doing and saying, the direction of education at the time, cell phone battles with students, and a general sense of being totally spent. All the while, I was encountering these posters, quotes, and invitations to move on. But to where? Staying open to invitations requires an inner and outer focus and an openness to signs along the way. It is not about the pushing the river, but as Tracy Chapman sings, letting the river wash over me. In the last years of my teaching career, I was utterly exhausted. In the fall of 2019, I hit a wall that I knew I was not going to be getting over. So I resigned my teaching position on January 5th, 2020. I had no idea the pandemic was on its way, and stepped into what I called my rejuvenation. And that June, with the pandemic in full swing, I declared to myself that I was going to let my soul have its way with me. I was inviting my soul to take over. When some of my friends and colleagues would share their befuddlement about my leaving teaching at 56, I would share with them one of my favorite quotes from Thoreau, from the conclusion of Walden. I left the woods for the same reason I went there. Perhaps it seemed to me I had many more lives to live and could not spare any more time for that one. I would imagine that Thoreau felt a deep invitation to build a small cabin at Walden Pond and spend a couple of years in contemplation with nature and see what it had to teach, but also sense when this invitation cycle had circled the pond and it was time to move on. And one of my longtime friends, Jonathan Tynes, he completely supported my decision to leave teaching and shared this quote, yes, another quote, the signpost of my life, credited to Goethe or W.H. Murray, depending on what poster you look at in what bathroom. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness concerning all acts of initiative and creation. There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events from the decision raising in one favor, all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings, material assistance which no person could have dreamed come their way. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. One of the things that happened for me, which felt like a measure of providence, was David White's book of poems, Still Possible, came out in 2022, and it was the timing of it, this poem that I shared with you as our reading today, because the My Courageous Life poem fueled a new beginning for me when I read the first stanza. My courageous life has gone ahead and is calling me on. That sense, like, okay, what is that? Where did it go ahead to? I wondered. Where was it calling me to? The answer, Port Townsend. My wife Laura and I sold our house in Portland, Oregon, and moved to Port Townsend in June 2022. The call to adventure was on. And sure enough, once I jumped, as Joseph Campbell would encourage, things began to unfold. And I don't want to sugarcoat this. As David White says in his poem, showing me day after day, even against my will, how to undo myself, how to surpass myself, how to laugh as I go in the face of danger. So that answering a larger invitation comes with risk, but also great rewards. It takes courage. Transitions are arduous and take work. A stepping away from and a stepping into, what Joseph Campbell refers to as the threshold in the hero's journey. One of the first things I did, this stepping into, when I got to Portland, I was hired by the Port Townsend School District as a substitute teacher. When I was in the Human Resources office, I was asked if I wanted to include elementary school. And I immediately said, oh no. I had middle school, middle school special ed, high school. I was like, no thanks. But the HR director explained that there are only 3 schools in the district, and it would broaden my chances of getting assignments, and that I should at least give it a try. So I said yes. To my surprise and delight, I have spent more days at Salish Elementary than Blue Heron Middle and the high school over the last 3.5 years. That is something I couldn't have imagined. In today's challenging adult world, I have found it to be a privilege and an honor to spend a day with these wide-eyed children, and they teach me. I felt that I was living through another stanza of White's poem where he says, my courageous life has the patience to keep teaching me how to invent my own disappearance and how once gone, Portland, Oregon, to reappear again in Port Townsend. Next, in July of 2022, I attended the Fish Trap Writers Conference in Eastern Oregon. It was only a month after I moved up here, and took a week-long writing workshop with Laura Pritchett, who midweek suddenly exclaimed that she had almost forgotten to hand out informational cards. Once again, a postcard. So these were like 2 important postcards in my life. This is the second one. It read, in this time of unprecedented ecological change, add your voice to the conversation. This card, which I have come to refer to as the card that started it all, was an invitation. I heard bells and whistles when this card was handed to me, and I thought, I am not going to miss this invitation. As a longtime lover of nature and a poet deeply concerned about the environmental crisis, I certainly wanted to add my voice to the conversation. Furthermore, over my years of teaching, I would often read the back of poetry books I was reading on the side and see that the poet had an MFA from this college or that college, and thought to myself, I don't have time for this, teaching full time. I applied that September, was accepted in November, and completed the program last July in the creative writing of poetry. It has been one of the best things I've ever done. We are constantly invited to be what we are. Still, it almost didn't come to pass. After my initial excitement, I began to fall into what the hero's journey calls the refusal of the call. I began to fret over the cost of the program, that I might be too old for it. I was 58 at the time, and the scrubbing bubbles of doubt basically invaded my mind. Choices are hard. What invitations to accept, which ones to decline, the possible consequences. Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, illustrates invitation, choice, and the importance of responding one way or the other. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no steps had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now, I'm not sure if Yogi Berra was familiar with this poem when he quipped, if you come to a fork in the road, take it, but one has to wonder. Speaking of indecision, one of the benefits of the MFA program I was in at Western Colorado University is that I have a lifelong access now as an alumnus to courses if I so choose. So recently I decided to take a course titled Tangled Up in Dylan, where I'm sure I'll be mining quotes. When I went to register, though, I couldn't get in. I couldn't get back into the system when I graduated. Come to find out, and I love this, I had to reapply as a non-degree seeking student with a concentration in undecided. To my delight, I was accepted. Finally, I can be undecided, and it's okay. I hope that in sharing the boon of what I've gained from this recent invitation cycle of my own hero's journey, that it may serve as just one example of what is possible when you accept an invitation or invitations to be what you are by keeping your eyes, ears, and heart open to signs that may come from quotes, movies, song lyrics, something a friend says, a teacher, your own inner voice. Then stepping into the unknown with courage and faith to overcome the many fears and doubts encountered along the way. As the dean of the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, says, we must be willing to give up the life we've planned so we can live the life that's waiting for us. In the spirit of bookending and going full circle, I'd like to end with a title poem from David White's book, Everything is Waiting for You. Everything is waiting for you. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and to invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Thank you.
Before we conclude, I offer these words of invitation. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. And I'd like to thank Richard for speaking with us today, and he will be available about 15 minutes or so for a discussion in the music room. And let's say our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the loving joy of being freely together. We carry that joy until we meet again. Oh, it looks like ours is already out. It just went out. Magic. So it looks like we need to refill. Please join us for refreshments. They have been provided today by Kathleen Croston and Ann Virtue.